Welcome to the Epic Podcast, your elopement photographer inspiration compass. I'm your host, Sheryl Anne, elopement photographer, former Navy officer, and proud mama. This is where adventure and destination elopement photographers come to get inspired, connect, and keep learning. If you're ready to reach new heights and find your true north, you're in the right place. Stay epic. Hey friends, welcome to the very first episode of the Epic Podcast. I cannot believe I'm saying this right now. I am so excited. Thank you guys for listening in. I'm your host, Sheryl Anne. I'm a destination elopement photographer, adventure lover, former Navy officer, and now brand new mama, just learning to balance raising a little one with a business that's literally built on travel and adventure. Before we dive into the episode, I'd like to start off every podcast episode with a win of the week from our elopement community, just because I think it's important to celebrate our wins, whether they're big or small, and cheer each other on. So this win of the week goes out to all the winners of the Elopement Legend Awards. Everyone's photographs were so beautiful. And if you don't know what the Elopement Legend Awards are, they are the only award for elopement photographers, and if you win, you get a backlink, which is really great for SEO. So apply to the next round, and again, congrats to everyone who won. I'd also like to share a life update before we start every episode. Right now, I'm prepping for an adventure elopement at Mount Rainier National Park. Mount Rainier National Park will always have a special place in my heart because it was where I had my very first adventure elopement in 2023. And it literally just changed the trajectory of my business. And it's crazy to be going back now and see how far I've come in that time. And now I'm doing an elopement photographer podcast. So it's really crazy. And I'm just really excited and grateful to be back. And my last life update is that my baby girl, Theo, turns 9 months today. Happy 9 months, baby girl. Man, time just really flies by and she's growing so fast. She's crawling and babbling and she's such a happy baby. And it's just been so special watching her grow. And balancing motherhood with my photographer business has been such a crazy yet rewarding experience. And I am just so grateful to be her mother. So yeah, anyways, that's it for wins and updates for this week. Let's dive into our very first episode on what Epic is all about. So for starters, you're probably wondering, is this podcast even for me? And if it's not, that's okay. Thank you so much again for listening in. But if you're an adventure or destination elopement photographer, or you want to be, then yes, this podcast is for you. If you're an elopement photographer who loves this work, but sometimes feels just overwhelmed, behind, or like you're just winging it, you're in the right place. If you've ever carried val books, snacks, bouquet, your gear up a mountain while asking, am I even doing this right? Welcome to the show. And if you're just working another job while balancing photography, had mom guilt while working, or you've just felt like you're the only one still figuring it out, you've found your podcast. This podcast is called EPIC, which is an acronym for Elopement Photographer Inspiration Compass. I know it's really cheesy, but it's kind of cute and clever, right? I chose Compass to define this podcast because I want this to be a space for you to find your true north, to guide your growth, help you find inspiration, and direct you toward an elopement community that's just like you. So why did I start this podcast? Honestly, I just kind of felt like there wasn't a podcast like this yet. Sure, there are photography podcasts like big traditional wedding podcasts and even some elopement podcasts, but I just felt like they were either made for couples looking to elope or they were like strictly educational or coaching. And I really wanted something different. I wanted a destination and adventure elopement podcast that's all about the real moments and not just education. Like, think photographer confessions and interviews and the kind of like fun, laid back education I kind of wish had existed for elopement photographers when I was starting out. Because let's be real, our community is really small and it can feel lonely and isolating sometimes. But if we took the time to share more of our stories, the crazy experiences, the highs and lows, the questions we're all secretly wondering about that is literally only applicable to being an adventure elopement photographer, I think we'd realize we're not so lost and not so alone. So now you might be thinking, who is Sheryl to talk about elopement photography when she hasn't even been in this industry for more than 10 years or pre-COVID? And honestly, that's the point. When I was in the Navy, it was often the people that were just 1 to 3 years ahead of us who made the biggest impact. They weren't so far removed that they forgot what the early stages felt like. They could still laugh with us, vent with us, and guide us without making us feel small. So that's the kind of energy I am bringing here. I am not teaching from the mountaintop. I'm walking beside you on the trail or like a little ahead, but not too far, like still within yelling distance and still within view. So much so that, full transparency, this is actually my first year full-time as an elopement photographer. I got out of the Navy this past January after 8.5 years of service. I built my business while I was in the Navy. I was shooting after work and sometimes before at sunrise, which was crazy. I was editing late at night. I was using my leave days to travel to elopements. And now I get to call this my job. And I am so, so grateful. And I think that makes this podcast the perfect place to join the journey because although my business is really in a good spot, I'm still figuring some things out too. So again, I'm not here as the go-to expert who has her life together. I'm here as someone growing, learning just like you, and inviting you along. So what can you expect from the Epic podcast? Real behind-the-scenes elopement stories, listener confessions, interviews with leading elopement photographers and vendors, helpful tips, gentle mentorship, and of course, answering your biggest business questions, and most of all, just being a space to laugh and reflect and feel inspired again when you need it most. So we'll talk about boundaries, burnout, workflow, and creativity, but we'll also talk about like random real stuff like crying in the car after a photo shoot or how to balance a business while raising babies and traveling with our babies. And again, hopefully we'll have amazing guests too, I hope. Fingers crossed. My dream list, the greats, obviously. Henry II, Maddie May, the Foxes, the Hearns, Megan McPhail, Will and Wolf Weddings, Adventure and Vow, Dawn Photo, Riley Jean, I love her work, Tyler Rye, and Casey Joe from the Elopement Academy. I think that would be really cool since I'm going to her retreat in Alaska next year. So yeah, but I also don't want to just interview just photographers. I'd love to interview adventure elopement makeup artists, elopement musicians, because I think it's really cool how they trek their instruments into the wilderness, and adventure guides as well, because inspiration, I feel like, doesn't just come from photographers. It comes from all the voices that shape our elopement community. So you're probably wondering who I am. Quick backstory, because we will dive into this the next episode. Again, I started photography while I was still in the Navy. I was documenting my travels and adventures just for fun. And then I photographed a adventure elopement again in Mount Rainier National Park. And everything changed for me then. Since then, I photographed elopement couples around the world, from the California redwoods to Washington, Hawaii, Switzerland, Thailand, and Tuscany and Amalfi Coast in Italy. And on top of all of that, I'm now navigating this season as a new mom to my daughter Theo, who comes along for some of the adventures, and that has been so, so special. So balancing business and motherhood has made me even more passionate about creating sustainable, joy-filled, heart-forward ways to grow, and of course, sharing that with others. So coming up on the next episodes of Epic, you'll hear again an episode getting to know me as your host. You'll hear photographer confessions and horror stories, including our Halloween special. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyways, so fill out the form in my bio if you have a fun, cool story that you'd love to share. And again, interviews and tips. So hit that follow button. It's going to be epic. See what I did there? Anyways, friends, I'll leave you with this. If you're an elopement photographer who's passionate about what you do, but you're tired of feeling like you have to hustle harder just to keep up, I hope this podcast feels like a breath of fresh air. I hope you feel seen here. And I hope you feel like you're sitting across from someone who gets it, because you're not behind, you're not alone, and you don't have to have it all figured out. So grab your coffee and come hang out with me each week. You can also find me at Instagram at Sheryl Anne Photo and at Epic Photo Podcast. And again, if you have a story, a lesson, a wild elopement moment you'd love to share, I would love to hear it. Submit it through the link in the show notes or in my bio, or even DM me. I'd love to meet you, and you might just be featured on a future episode. So thank you guys for listening in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And as always, stay epic. Thanks for tuning into the Epic Podcast. If you love today's episode, don't forget to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with a friend who could use a little inspiration. You can connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at Sheryl Anne Photo, or at Epic Photo Podcast for more stories, tips, and behind the scenes from life as an elopement photographer. Until next time, stay epic.